If I told you before the game started that the Washington Commanders were going to put together 7 scoring drives, and the New York Giants were only going to put together 3, you would think that Washington would come out with more than a 3-point victory, but that's exactly what went down in week 2. We're going to talk about all of it right now live on Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, everybody, to this live episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credentialed member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. And I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. You can also find me writing 3 to 5 times a week for WUSA9.com, the local CBS station here in Washington, D.C. all season long. Thanks for coming through for today's episode. All the everydayers out there, special thank you to all of you. Locked On Commanders is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are listening to today's episode, which we are going to recap what happened in the Washington Commanders 21-18 victory over the New York Giants. We're going to name our 3 stars. We're going to talk about key plays and the things that still need to be cleaned up by this team, because there is plenty. But we're going to start it all off with the Washington Commanders toppling the New York Giants, potentially, perhaps, exercising some demons from this NFC East divisional rivalry. If you want to get even more out of Locked On Commanders, like my insiders did all day during Sunday's game day, all you got to do is sign up to become an insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. From there, you can text me. I will text you, and you'll get access to inside information, bonus content, all kinds of fun stuff going on over there. So again, joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. First 2 weeks are free. If you stick around, we appreciate you. If you don't stick around, still appreciate you for giving it a shot. So 21-18, that is the final score here for the Washington Commanders defeating the New York Giants. The New York Giants fall to 0-2, which means historically they've got about a 9% chance of making the NFL playoffs. Not that a lot of people expected them to actually make the NFL playoffs. Anyway, the Washington Commanders advance to 1-1. And if you go back to our preseason conversations and record predictions and all those kinds of things, we kind of talked about, right? There were 8 games against playoff teams from a year ago. We kind of said, okay, we want them to see if we can get 2 wins out of that 8-game stretch. If you can get even more, then you're just ahead of schedule. And then you have the teams that had winning records but didn't make the playoffs, the Cincinnati Bengals being one of those teams. Of course, that's the game next week on Monday night that we'll be out there for. And then you have the rest of your games, 7 of them to be exact, against teams that had losing records last year. And you want to go 4-3 in those to amass about 7 wins, which is over the 6.5 over-under that Vegas and the Lions had them sitting at the time. So as far as being on track there, 1 loss against a playoff team last year, okay, you still have 7 other opportunities to get those 2 wins. But here, first game against a team with a losing record last year, and they pull off the win. So you've already got 1 of the 4. So now you got to go 3-3 against the rest of that group. Or if you can go 4-2, 5-1, 6-0 would be great, right? Then you look at this team and say, okay, you're ahead of schedule. So that's kind of the first and foremost thing, is get that win. Make sure you stay on track as far as what the expectations are for this team this season, at least the external expectations for this team this season. Brian Robinson, 17 carries, 133 yards, 7.8 yards per carry on average. Not 16 runs, but he did have 10 for 44 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. Austin Eckler tipped in 8 carries and 3 for 29. Only 6 incompletions this entire game, 226 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns. And more importantly, I think this weekend, no fumbles. Even last weekend, the fumbles weren't recovered by the Buccaneers, but you still had them. And of course, you wanted to see them not have those fumbles today. So didn't have any of those fumbles. Zach Ertz was a player that we talked about during the week, might be able to step up in this game. 4 catches, 62 yards for him. So that was really good. And how about Terry McLaurin? Everybody was screaming, get Terry involved. And look, the yardage, not the sexiest in the world, but 6 catches, 22 yards. Anytime you're getting the ball in the hands of your number 1 playmaker 6 times in a game, good things are bound to happen. And this was one of those games where it's like, all right, good things are bound to happen this time. All right, good things are bound to happen this time. And the good thing that happened was a record-setting performance from kicker Austin Seibert. 7 made field goals, and this Washington Commanders team needed all 7 of them. So let's dive into this. A key play of the game, kind of like last week. I actually said last week, like, this will probably be the only time we do this, but I'm going to just go lack of red zone offense. The key to this game, and the reason that the 7th and final field goal by Austin Seibert was the game-winning field goal, is because this team could not punch it in in the red zone. So I tallied the red zone stats, and this does not include the final 2 snaps in the red zone at the end of the game for the game-winning field goal. Brian Robinson ran it up the middle once to set the ball where Austin Seibert wanted it, and then Jane Daniels taking the knee. So I didn't count those 2 stats just because they're more like garbage time stats, right? But the rest of the red zone stats, 9 carries, 36 yards, 3 sacks, minus 12 yards, 5 false start penalties, 0 for 3 passing, 5 field goals before, again, that game-winning field goal. So that is horrendous. Like you're happy to have the win. And I've talked to coaches before. We said, look, it's always better to learn from a close win than it is to lose, to learn from a blowout loss or even a close loss. You want to come out with that win because then you can kind of point to, look, here are the things we've been telling you that have worked, that helped us win this weekend. Here are the things we need to continue to work on that we've been telling you we need to work on. And it kind of motivates the guys to keep working on those things in order to develop more wins. And of course, that is the hope and the expectation. A lot of wind coming out here today. Hopefully it's not too crazy. My camera's blowing around. My laptop's blowing around. Top takeaway from this game, tackling is still a problem. You know, we don't have an exact tally on that right now and how many missed tackles there were, but there were several plays out here on Sunday afternoon where I'm sitting next to Candy Waller, Donna Hopkins, Felix. I'm sitting next to Lake, and we're all kind of counting up the missed tackles. Plenty of reps where we counted 1, 2, sometimes 3 missed tackles on one play. Tackling is still a problem. This team got to get that figured out going down the stretch because, again, this is against the New York Giants, right? Like let's not get out of pocket here. 21-18 against the New York Giants. That's not exactly. You're not going to start playing in parades for that, right? You're happy with the win, but you're not going to start playing. Not better. Again, it's only 1 week. Opportunity to break down the tape, learn from his experience, come out again. I don't expect Manuel Forbes will probably play next week either, although never say never, and Dan Quinn certainly didn't count it out necessarily. But they did switch to Noah Igbenogany at one point. I'm going to look at both cornerbacks tape this week and for our tape study review, or our tape review episode rather. So I'll tell you what I see from both guys, but just the initial impression, not better than Emmanuel Forbes. And look, I know a lot of people were hopefully not happy that Emmanuel got injured, but happy to see someone other than Emmanuel in there. But it kind of takes me back again to my Bucs days when everybody wanted Donovan Smith replaced once he was. They kind of saw, like, look, we may not love Donovan Smith, but we don't love the guy behind him even more. Kind of a similar situation here with the Washington Commanders and Emmanuel Forbes. But again, they get the win, so that's the most important thing. But we've also still got to talk about our play of the day, the play of the day, which helps the Washington Commanders pull off this win. And actually, it's not an Austin Seibert field goal, so make sure you come away for that. And then, of course, we've got our 3 stars of the game coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On Commanders live from the service of Northwest Stadium here in Landover, Maryland. First time I got to say that is brought to you by Prize Picks. And Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. I am one of them. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against numbers. You're not going up against me with my inside information. You're not going up against my insiders with their inside information. You're just going up against the projections. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. Watch your winnings roll in. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September, which is almost over in the terms of NFL, right? Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. That's 4 free weeks. Again, we're already through a couple of those, so don't miss out on the rest of it through September, because once September is over, that deal is gone. It's a fun app to make your picks on. It's been part of my NFL routine ever since they came on board a couple years ago. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. Football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a single play. Football season means it's watch party season, but not every watch party provides the foods and snacks that everybody appreciates. So if you show up to your buddy's house and all they have is dip, when you really want a plate of wings, DoorDash can come to the rescue, and you don't even have to miss a single rep on game day. I need 3 things up there in the press box: finger food to keep my hands free for typing and taking notes, water to keep me hydrated, and soda to keep me energized. Usually it's a little bit later when I get out of here. I've got about a couple hour drive to get home, so I like to have food waiting for me on when I do arrive back home, so I can order it on DoorDash ahead of time and have it sitting for me right in front of my door by the time I hit it, especially on the road to hotels. It's really, really clutch. Use promo code LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer, terms apply. Promo is not available for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 or older to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. Continuing on now with our live post-game episode of Locked On Commanders, 21-18. Keep looking up at the video board. It's also down there, but keep looking at the video board because just honestly, guys, I can tell you this is my third year on the beat here with you guys. Fourth year on Locked On Commanders, writing about the Washington Commanders, but third year on the ground every single day. And I can tell you this is actually one of the more entertaining Commanders games that I've seen, even though it has no touchdowns involved on the Washington Commanders side. Just a very interesting, kind of a very weird, and just kind of a very fitting game for early in the NFL season where weird things just kind of tend to happen, like Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings beating the San Francisco 49ers. But the play of the day for the Washington Commanders today is going to be, the one that I picked, is going to be the fumble forced by Benjamin St-Juste, recovered by Jeremy Chinn. So this play comes while the New York Giants are leading 12-9 at the time. And at that point in time, they had gained 52 yards in just 4 plays. 4 plays, 52 yards. They were on the Washington 35 at the time. Washington took over from there, and they tied the game at 12 at the end of that drive. And as you know, because of the score, if the New York Giants are able to get points, granted, they didn't have their kicker, so they're in 4-down territory. It's like touchdown or nothing. So certainly there's still some things that could have happened later on. But the Giants were already moving the ball really well, had the momentum, looked like they were going in for another score. If they score right there, we're probably talking about a Washington Commanders loss, and nobody wanted to do that today, at least not unless you were wearing Giants blue. So I think that is the play of the day. The 7 field goals, obviously clutch. The big runs, I think 12 or 13 explosives. I got my notes right here. Let me look at my notes real quick. I counted 13 explosive plays for the Washington Commanders. In case you don't know, explosive run, 10 yards or more, explosive pass, 20 yards or more. And then on defense, you're talking turnovers, right? So the fumble is an explosive. So that's how many explosives the Washington Commanders had today. And the first takeaway of the year. It's not going to be enough, right? They definitely want more, but certainly happy to see them get one takeaway at least for the season. That leads us right into our 3 stars of the game. Benjamin St-Juste is our 3rd star. So if you're a hockey fan, you already know how this goes. If you're not a hockey fan, 3rd star, 2nd star, 1st star. 1st star is the top star. We start with the 3rd. Benjamin St-Juste, 6 total tackles in this game today. Don't have exact data on PBUs. I know he had at least one or a couple, and then of course he had that forced fumble. Benjamin St-Juste, I would say, had a much better game this weekend than he did opening weekend against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Definitely a step in the right direction. So I want to make sure we give Benjamin St-Juste a little bit of flowers there. Star number 2, Brian Robinson Jr., man. I mean, other than scoring a touchdown, what more can you get from this guy? 17 carries, 133 yards. He also had 3 targets, 1 catch for 3 yards, which is not the most that we've seen Brian Robinson be able to do as a receiver. But B-Rob absolutely out here balling. If you didn't catch Brian Robinson's post-game press conference, I don't know if the team streamed all the guys we talked to at the podium. If they didn't, I will make sure I share it on a later episode this week, Locked On Commanders. But if you did, then I think you could see a little bit of the emotion, a little bit of the joy. I think he used the word appreciate or appreciation about 20 different times during his press conference. So B-Rob, incredibly happy, and I'm incredibly happy for him. And then the record setter, man. I mean, he hasn't even been employed by this team for a week yet, and he's already setting records. Austin Seibert, 7 for 7 from field goals. 5th time is the charm. And you know what? Jaden Daniels wears number 5. 5th time's the charm for the kickers. I don't know. Maybe there's something to this 5 thing. Hopefully it's just not a 5-win thing. Hopefully we get past that precipice, right? But that's going to do it for this live episode. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to dive more into the lessons. We're going to look at kind of what the Washington Commanders were trying to do, what they were able to do, where they need to improve. Again, there's plenty there. And we're also going to talk about what Dan Quinn had to say as we get to our Quinn's Quotes segment for the week. And then we'll get into our film review, maybe hit a mailbag. Full disclosure, I've got to head to Ohio this week. My in-laws are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. So my family and I are driving to Ohio to celebrate with them. It's actually kind of ironic. I'm going to be about an hour away from Cincinnati Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then come home Saturday to fly to Cincinnati on Monday for Monday Night Football. But that's the life that we live. So I will not be at practice Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the Washington Commanders this week, but we will still have a full slate of episodes. So make sure you come through for all of those. And then, of course, we'll be back at it Monday night in Cincinnati to watch the Washington Commanders upset the Cincinnati Bengals. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, just hit me up by texting me. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to do that today. And thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen. Next up, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. It's new and it's twice per day. I will be on there Wednesday afternoon. As always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day every day until we speak again. If you're out and about, please be safe, be kind, and I will see you right back here next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.